Hey guys, welcome to the BeeRPad. It is the there's the three amigos once again with the wonderful, incredible Marcus Beer, the dashing.
See, you can't really see my mouth because the thing's right in front of it. Hang on. Hold on. Let's see if I have the technical.
Oh my God, he's bionic.
Ooh, I have technology.
Or he's at the dentist.
No, I have one of those standing desks that I press a button, it goes up, and then press another button, it goes down.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we'll have none of that crazy wind-upable shit that makes me work hard.
With the pranks.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I'm here. How are you, my darlings? You all right?
We are also here. I think I'm here. Paul, are you there?
I'm only half here.
So, guys, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the oldest archaeologist in the books, the man who is literally 3 weeks away from becoming his own King Tut. We are talking about Henry Jones Jr. because at the end of the day...
Excuse me, Dr. Henry Jones Jr.
You called him Dr. Jones doll.
Well,
he didn't go to college just to be called Mr.
What can I say? Because with a name like Jones, it means he's actually Welsh. But so, as I am also a Welsh, therefore I can call him whatever the fuck I want. But yes, I can also call him Indiana, even though they named the dog Indiana.
That's right.
Which was a quote from the last truly great Indiana Jones movie, in my opinion, because there's been two since. Not that this one is bad, but we are talking about the dial-up of destiny. Indiana Jones's struggle to get online in the AOL era. Talk about history. It's going to take him a week to download some Egyptian hieroglyphic porn.
That's right.
Poor guy.
And in other world news, we are the three of us are now on Threads, the new social network by Meta. It's uses your Instagram login credentials. I think we're all the same name that we have here on Threads.
We are indeed. I must admit, I toyed with between Threads and Blue Sky of changing up this whole thing to like being Marcus Beer or whatever. And I went back and forth numerous times, and then I just came to the conclusion: I am a Noid gamer, and I'll be a Noid gamer until I shuffle this motherfucking coil. So I might as well. I mean, I could be well, I could be unoriginal and just put my name. Because let's face it, there is no original thought in anybody who just puts, "Oh, this is my name because of who I am." So yeah,
Paul Semel. That's his name.
I was wondering if he'd figure it out that I was talking about him, or just let it go over his head. So I just decided I am a Noid gamer on Threads. I am a Noid gamer on Blue Sky and on Insta, and I think also on Mastodon. I think I signed up for that one. I can't fucking remember.
Yeah, I did too. But I never used it. I am using Threads. I am enjoying it. It's like Twitter in 2008. Like I
mean, the beauty of Threads is that right now, every time a right-wing fucking turns up, they get piled on to the nth degree, and it's beautiful. And Zuckerberg has said it's not going to until he has 1 billion followers, he's not going to activate advertising, which is obviously not 1 billion followers, billion users. Is noble. They've been doing quite well. Obviously, it's one of the fastest social media app downloads of all time, and they've got to certain levels that Twitter and Insta and everything else got to, but in record time. And I think it just goes to show there is definitely a market for it. But I mean, for them to really want to own this, they have to do what they've not done with Facebook. They have to keep the nut bars off it. And it's not even a question of, oh, we'll let them on, promise that either they'll behave. No, I'm sorry if, some of these idiots on the far right and the far left, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. If these conspiracy theorists and basically anybody who's got a track record of being an asshole comes onto Threads, they need to be permabanned instantly. And I miss the days where everybody had a static IP and they could just be permabanned from everything forever. Because I would like to see these people permabanned from the internet, but I think they should lose all their Meta things like
privileges,
everything all in one go. Yeah, there should be a master meta account, and you lose it all, and you can never sign up for it again because Mark Zuckerberg will come around and cage match you, okay, and wrestle you.
So, guys, hold on to that Threads thought. I will get back to that. I just want to get to a few comments from the gallery. Our great
we have
friend
comments
Mark
already.
Griffiths. Mark says, I don't know if I'm too slow watching these new films or you lot are just too quick. Every time you do one of these, I've not seen it yet. In this case, I think you are too slow because this would be the second weekend Dial of Destiny is out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Not only that, it's the second. It's like the second or third weekend in the UK. Dude, it opened up in the UK earlier. Before. Yeah, it opened in the UK before us. I mean, you get the movies are generally a week before us now.
So, haha.
So, come on, boys, Bach.
And we have Backby. Good sticking with the username. I agree. Been using the same since 10-11. Wow. Turning Jesus. How? What is Jesus' age? Was like 33? Is that it? When he? I
don't know. It just depends how old he was at the time.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
that's true. What does far right or far left mean, and how do you? Yeah, that is the problem there. I don't know if you can use the asshole meter like Marcus said. I think the problem really is misinformation and disinformation, and even that is
disinformation, incendiary crap. People who are just on there to stir shit up, and they generally fall into one of two categories: far left or far right. Because, like I said, the far left are just as culpable. So, I mean, you know, there are a lot of fucking nut jobs out there that just need. It would be nice to have a social media playground that the you know, people can just come and enjoy, like a day at the park, without a bunch of idiots coming up and taking a shit right in the middle of the slide. You know, I mean, it would just be nice. And we've all put our trolley shit out there. We've all done our stupid things, posted our stupid comments. But I just think it would be lovely not to see, for example, the NRA posting. You know,
okay.
But I mean, you know, I
thought it was 33 back. Yeah. Thank you.
33. Okay. But yeah. So yeah, anyway, that's just, like I said, right now it's lovely. And it is, like you said, it's like 2008. So long may that continue for Threads. And you know, the days of giving people second, third, and fourth chances are beyond a joke. They're gone. If these people turn up and just start inciting crap, they should be gone. Let's just have one space where we can just step away from it all. Because I'm going to, yeah, I'm fed up on my Twitter. I mean, obviously we've got our Twitter thing up there. I think we should drop that and move the Threads thing, because I'm kind of over Twitter. I am so over it, and I've still got like 17,000 followers, of which probably 1,000 are actually real people. I don't know how the hell I ended up with the bots, but
the purposes of this stream, I do not think Threads API is open to other services yet, so we can.
I think it will be at some point.
It will
be,
I think
for
sure.
So,
but it's just not yet.
Yeah.
Paul, how are you digging Threads so far? You are on there as well.
I mean, I find it useless at this point because your only sort of choice for your stream or whatever it's called is this weird algorithm thing where they show you stuff.
Right. Not chronological.
It's not chronological. It's not limited to people you follow.
Right.
So it doesn't work for me as an information service. And also, like, it's very clear that, like, the algorithm doesn't get me at all because it's showing me all this stuff that I'm like, I don't care about that. I don't.
It's the more you use it, it will start to learn. I mean, you know,
that's
the thing. The more things.
Yeah, but
it
should know. It should know some stuff from Instagram already.
But Paul, I've known you for going on 15, 16 years. I still don't know what you like, for God's sake. So how do you expect a poor AI, a mediocre AI?
Yeah, I don't know, Marcus. I don't know how you could possibly know what I'm into.
Well,
I don't know.
All I know is that I ruined your coffee last time I spoke to you.
I don't know you didn't, but okay.
You're into pastries.
The other thing I would say is I want there to be, and I know this will happen, is I want there to be a version you can use on your computer.
Yes. What's his face? What's the guy's name? Begins with an M. That's in charge of this. That guy. So No, the one that's in charge of this specifically. He's the Instagram guy.
Oh, I don't know.
His last name begins with an M.
Zark Muckerberg.
No, that's too high up. It's a level lower. But he said,
what, has anybody taken Zark Muckerberg on Threads? I'm going to start a parody.
He said for sure what features that are definitely coming are a feed with just the people you follow and desktop. Those will be things eventually.
Right.
I don't know how soon, but we shall see. Mark says, I think that's something you curate yourself. Pretty much all my social media accounts are chill because, that is fair.
That I will agree with. I mean, and that's the funny thing for me is that my experiences on social media are way nicer than other people seem to be. And I never understand, like, when people will say, like, I don't understand, like, why all my feeds are like Nazis. I'm like, because you're following Nazis, maybe. I mean, like, I don't see, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see a lot of this stuff. Like, what I see are people complaining about it. I don't see the stuff itself.
Right.
You know, on my feed. But I'm also very, like, picky. Like, I don't follow people that I don't know in real life.
Yeah,
but you're also, I think out of the three of us, I think you were the least easily distracted too, whereas I'm like squirrel. So
yeah, I mean, you're not really on social media a huge amount, are you? I mean, unless you're sharing a book review.
Twitter's always on for me, and I'm constantly checking the other one. Well, a lot of them I'm really just used to promote stuff on my website. Like, I don't interact with people all that much. I don't look at social media as a place to make friends. I look at it as a place for me to promote my website stuff and for me to occasionally vent about some stupid thing that somebody did. You know, I will respond if somebody asks me a respectful question, but like for example, like on Facebook, like I will get like requests from people like, I want to be your friend. And I'll be like, okay. And then I instantly unfollow them because I don't know them in real life. You know,
that is a tough one. I think, look, here's how to make Threads a success. Look at what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter and do the exact opposite. So pay your bills, hire the correct staff, make sure everything is, make sure that the thing is actually solid, no rate limiting, and no letting the CEO or whatever tweet stupid shit.
No rate limiting without warning. I love how they just
let them have. Let them have Twitter. All right. You know what? We'll step back. We'll move over here. That could be their playground. They can share it with Truth Social and see which one implodes first. And then hopefully Threads is just going to be better managed. Just better. I mean, back in the day when Twitter first started, it was a lot of fun to be on. It really was. Much like Facebook was. And now Facebook for me is still fun to be on because I am much savvier about who I curate and what do I look at. So I don't have any political stuff coming into my Facebook. It's for my family and my friends. That's it. I don't want to see anything else. Oh, and sometimes, cool shit like the BeeRPad.
I think also what will help is if Threads makes it very clear to those people that this is not a space for that. Do you know what I mean? Like there's always that thing about like Twitter being like, oh no, we're not liberal or conservative. Like if Threads kind of said like it becomes clear that Threads is like clearly like not for these people and the griefers and whatever, then they won't go there as much.
I'll just have a really strong band team in place. Most of them don't have. And again, most of them will come along with probably the same ID as their Twitter, and so it's going to be easy to start looking these people up. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about why we are here.
Yes,
and why we are here is to talk about our Lord and Savior in Dr. Indiana Jones.
Now, keeping with the Threads theme, Threads has a 500 character limit count. Give a Thread size review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Paul, why don't you go first?
Okay. Though not as good as the first three, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is still a lot of fun and a great adventure and farewell for Dr. Indiana Jones.
Were you counting the words?
No, I was just trying to do it in my head. Yeah, kind of speaking at the same time. Yeah.
So for mine, I will just take Derpy Entertainment's comment and rethread it. I definitely enjoyed this more than Crystal Skull, so that's pretty much how I feel.
Okay, I am going to go
why did
with.
He spell it with a K? Is that like its porno name?
Sure, I like it.
Starring Crystal Steel. I mean,
okay, pervert. I am going to go with a 3-word review.
Ooh,
and it's fine, just fine.
Okay. I think this will be similar to last week's Diablo.
Fine. Fine, just fine.
I think Paul liked it best. Marcus liked it least, and I'm stuck in the middle with you as I cut off your ear. No.
Yeah. For some reason, somebody on my YouTube page decided to take great offense when I talked about Diablo 4 dumbing down for PC, the console versions leading to the PC version being dumbed down. They tried to educate me on how people, games companies, they develop on a console, or even though they actually develop everything on a PC, and PlayStation and Xbox are actually PCs in a box. By this time, actually really old PCs in a box. And I will stand by what I said last week. I think Diablo 4 would have been a lot better had it been a little more muscular on the PC and not feeling like they had to aim for the lowest hanging fruit by cozying up to the console crowd. They could have done console versions, but crossplay, I didn't need it.
What if you had refrigerator porn, Backby?
Wouldn't all the fridges have to be Smeg fridges?
Whoa.
So
I gotta go.
All right. And so anyway, let's get back to
I was surprised to learn earlier in the year that you two were definitely seeing this in theaters, because it never would have occurred to me to, if we didn't have to do this stream, I would have been totally happy waiting for this for streaming. That's how much I did not like the Crystal Skull, as much as I love the first 3 movies.
And do you now regret going to see it in theaters?
Do I regret it? No, I think I made the right call initially, not wanting to see it. No. I enjoyed it. It wasn't, like Marcus says, it's just fine. Is that's pretty much the territory I'm in. Yeah, I don't think I saw anything that justified a $20 ticket.
Look, for me, it was a nice way to round off the quadrology, if you will. But I wasn't so excited about it. But James Mangold, I've got a lot of faith in him.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford. I mean, it's Harrison Ford, dude. I mean, he's one of the last great movie stars. I mean, we don't really have movie stars anymore. There are fine actors and actresses, but when Tom Cruise finally does one stunt too far, the age of the successful movie star will, true bona fide box office movie star will be gone. Because again, no offense to anybody and everybody out there, but I can't think of anybody to have. I mean, I know Dwayne Johnson has tried it, but he's had just as many bombs as he has had hits, and his luster has definitely been tarnished recently.
But if you still add up his totals, I think he's still
again, I mean, you add up McDonald's totals, and it doesn't mean that it's good food.
Well, Quentin Tarantino said something about that. He said that nobody goes to see the Marvel movies because of Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans. They're going to see
it did help.
Iron Man.
Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. in it really did help.
Right.
I mean,
but
that was
the
exception rather than the rule.
I saw it for Scarlett.
Scarlett wasn't in the first one.
No, she was not.
So therefore, we were talking about the first one. So pay attention.
No, but I think his point was...
Okay, fine. I saw it for Starman. I saw the first one to watch Starman do evil things.
But again, he was great. Right? I mean, the fact is that I think you were right, Paul, and so is Tarantino, except for that very first Iron Man. Because if that Iron Man had, here's Albert Fredblogs and Steve McJubilee, and he's but Favreau went to bat, got Robert Downey Jr. and he got Jeff Bridges, and he got Mrs. Egg Steamer uncoupled Gwyneth Paltrow, and he was in it as well as Happy, and the script was great, and all the other actors were great character actors, and we got to see Phil Coulson, and we never knew how big he'd take off. Right. And then, of course, we got that scene at the end with Samuel L. Jackson. So that movie ticked so many boxes that nobody was expecting it to do as well as it did. But I think having that stellar cast not only drew people to the cinema, like, oh, Iron Man, what's this? But also,
I think that's the thing that Quentin doesn't take into account is that, yeah, okay, fine, people are going to see it because it's Spider-Man, but the reason it works so well is because of the actors that they've cast.
Yeah, the actors are generally excellent, unlike, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, the DC counterparts. I mean, for every good DC movie, there are not as good ones with the casts that are woefully miscast. Which sucks. But yeah, back to Harrison Ford. And look, should this movie have been done maybe 6-7 years ago?
20 years?
Well, I mean, look, if then, of course, you're talking before Crystal Skull. I mean, Crystal Skull should have been done in the 90s, and this maybe should have been done 15 years ago. And we'd have just said goodbye to Indy and moved on. I understand the effects weren't in place, and Harrison Ford took his break.
Now we'd be talking about Indiana Jones and the something else.
No, I think he would have walked away after 5. I think he would have walked away after 5. I mean, he's had this this career reboot, if you will, or return. I mean, he was in the Yellowstone prequel. He's taken over as Thunderbolt Ross in the Marvel universe.
Well, but because he's revised a lot of his familiar characters. He went back and played Han Solo
he's
again,
also
went back and played Decker again.
But he's also excellent in the Apple TV show. Was it Shrinking?
Shrinking, not shrinking.
Shrinkage. I mean, he's excellent as that in that. Like I said, he's doing something new. He's gone into Marvel Universe, but he was great. Like I said, and if you haven't watched 20 thing, whatever it was, the Yellowstone prequel, I actually would say it's far more entertaining than the Kevin Costner version. Because I just have an inherent dislike of Kevin Costner after he did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with an American accent. Hey there, I'm Robin Hood. How are you, Little John?
Maid Marion. Where the fuck are you going, Marion?
You're the Sheriff of Nottingham. I mean, look, let's just face it, there's only 2 things good in that movie, and one is Alan and the other one's Rickman.
Right. So this movie was filmed, what, 2 years ago? Something like that. Let's say.
No, I thought they finished it last year.
So he's 79 when they were filming this movie. Do you buy a 79-year-old action star? Because I did not at all. Like that. Okay, we're getting into spoiler shields. Turn them on.
All right, hang on. We'll do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Spoilers.
I feel like we should be singing a Janet Jackson song now.
I'll show my boob. All right.
So when he dives, that first action sequence at the school where he dives on the bookshelf and it collapses and then he just pops right up. I'm like, no. You're 79 years old. That shit hurts.
That's because we are of a certain era or a certain age between the ages of mid-40s to mid-50s. Where if we did that, we'd be screwed. But at the end of the day, it's also a fucking Indiana Jones movie. I mean, there were so many, could he have launched himself out of a plane on a rubber boat with Short Round in Temple of Doom? In
Temple of Doom, yeah.
Yeah, and gone down the rafters and survived. No, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a movie. It is suspending disbelief. I mean, we are talking about a series that is based on Saturday morning serials. The Fugitive, one of my favorite movies. Also, what's the other one he did? Whether he won the Oscar for with Kelly McGillis, Witness. Yeah. That was just that's probably one of my all-time favorites of his anyway. But yeah, I mean, we have to suspend some disbelief. And I went in suspending disbelief on this one because at the end of the day, it's you don't go in here for the cutting edge realism. I mean, this isn't a dark, gritty, realistic drama. This is entertainment. This is craziness. This is a guy who is is at the end of his career and is off to do whatever, and he gets roped into one last role. I'm just glad it didn't kill him. And I think it works. I mean, it was a okay script with okay set pieces, and I'm prepared to give it so much slack because this is also the first one that wasn't directed by Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And that's a huge thing. And let's face it, Steven Spielberg created so many of our memories as teenagers in the 80s with a lot of movies, and and stuff in the teenagers in the 60s, like for people like Paul. I'm just fucking with you, dude. You know that. But yeah, I mean, he made so many great movies. And unfortunately, when we came back to Crystal Skull, it had gone from being, oh, this is cool, to, oh, this is exceptionally cheesy.
Unfortunately for you and me, but Paul is the person I know who likes Crystal Skull the most.
I actually rewatched Crystal Skull this week. And I am going to say that while Crystal Skull is still the worst of the Indiana Jones films, in my opinion,
it's not terrible.
I have rated, out of the 5, I have rated the 5, and it goes Raiders, Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, Dial Up of Destiny, and Crystal Skull. The gap between Dial of Destiny and Crystal Skull has decreased somewhat. Not that I'm saying Dial of Destiny is a bad film as well, because I think if you look at them as a quadrology, the thing that's harmed them the most is that huge gap between them. Because obviously, I remember when Crystal Skull came out, everybody's like, "Oh, it's going to be the biggest movie of the year," and then a little Batman movie came out with Heath Ledger as the Joker and just blew everything away that summer, including this one. So I'm prepared to cut it perhaps a little more slack because I'm also old. But I still think that Raiders and Last Crusade are the 2 best of the Indiana Jones ones.
I think Last Crusade is the best as a movie. It does the pacing, so much about it is just so skillfully done. For nostalgia, I like Temple of Doom a little bit better.
I mean, Temple of Doom is like I said. Then the gap between those top 3 is way significant.
Yeah.
And look. Last Crusade. Look, where did my line come from? Last Crusade. Who uttered the line? Sean fucking Connery, the OG greatest James Bond of all time. I mean, the guy who turned up for 5 seconds in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and almost redeemed the whole movie. The Scottish guy doing a Scottish accent who got an Oscar for playing an Irishman. In that Kevin Costner film, The Untouchables. So I mean, he's Sean fucking Connery, for God's sake. So yeah, I mean that's why it's just waffle thin. And then I'm just going to share one more thing, and this is just amusing with regards to Raiders. I don't know if anybody watches The Big Bang Theory, but there is an episode of The Big Bang Theory where the guys are watching a print of Raiders and they get very excited because it's like an extra 3.6 seconds of new footage.
This is going to solve the submarine controversy.
Indeed. But then there is a line where Mayim Bialik's character, Amy Farrah Fowler, watches Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then says, Indiana Jones makes no difference to the entire story. Basically, if he wasn't, all he does is get some people killed and slow it down. If he'd have actually just not been involved from the get-go, they'd have found the Ark, they'd have opened the Ark, they'd have fucking melted. That's it, end of story. Indiana Jones's, actually, you could take him out and it would be the same ending. And when their reactions in it are obviously amazing. And then I just rewatched the film and I'm like, fuck, she's pretty much right. I mean, which is so true and so mind bending, but still, it's our teenage years and it's such a great film.
See, I think Raiders doesn't have as a big a place in my heart as you two because I'm a little bit younger than you. It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. That ending scene was one of the most traumatic movie moments for me, just because I was just that few years younger than you.
Oh
guys,
no, it scared the crap out of me too.
But I was not. I don't think it was age appropriate for how old I was at that time.
How old were you?
I don't remember what year it came out. Or
81.
81.
It came out after Empire but before Jedi, or was it? Yeah, it was. Or was it? Yeah, it was after Empire but before Jedi because Jedi was 82, and Empire was 80.
But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have seen that movie.
So how old were you in 81?
I was. Yeah, I was five. Yeah, 5.
Okay, yeah,
probably.
Yeah, you're probably
you're still in your
probably about 5 years off being able to watch that without.
Wait, should I be insulted that Paul thinks that?
Yeah, I mean he looks older than me.
Kids in your music.
Pull your pants up and stop running the jewels, will you? All right, so I'm going to ask you two. Where's your, what's your how does this stack in your top 5 before we get into actually dissecting it because there's a lot of dissection.
Yeah. I'll go Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, although that could change anytime. Raiders, Dial of Destiny, Crystal Skull, last. Now you go, Paul, because you betrayed Shiva.
I go
Kali.
I go Raiders, Last Crusade, slim margin there, Temple of Doom, Crystal Skull. No, Dial of Destiny, Crystal Skull.
So Paul's obviously right. Moving on, if you're in the comments, and thank you all. I mean, our comment section is so busy right now. I'm loving it. Thank you all for your comments. So hit us with the how it works for you with your top 5. How did it work out? I mean, top 5. Rank your 5. Put them first to last. Let's go. Let's see what you have to say. By the way,
I think it's funny that none of us had mentioned the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which I would put at a distant
I never watched them. I don't think it aired in the UK, or if it did, it aired on some obscure channel. So it was something that never really came. I'm looking forward to the new Young Indiana Jones with Alden Ehrenreich reprising his Harrison Ford imitation role.
Is he doing it too? Really?
I'm just fucking with you because obviously he played Solo.
Yes,
Han Solo, young Han Solo, and I don't think he did too bad a job. I think the problem there was Ron fucking Howard.
Yeah, that movie gets more heat than it deserves. Guys, and if you are watching this through one of Marcus's channels on Twitter or YouTube, please subscribe to the BeeRPad or follow us. Up there is our socials: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and hopefully one day, eventually, Threads.
Well, I think we are on the Threads, are we not?
No, we are not, because
there
is no BeeRPad Instagram.
So we need to, so please
I'll take care of that.
BeeRPad Instagram, somebody. Don't be
the idea.
Yeah, no, these are good people. These are good folks. All right, so do you have something? So everybody's gonna start rating it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the movie, and the plot is, it's Indiana Jones. He's basically retiring from teaching. Marion's gone again. We don't know what's happened to Mutt, but whatever it is, we approve. He's basically the first time you really see 80-year-old Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, you see him in a Barcalounger, reclining in front of the TV in his fucking skivvies. And I mean, fair fucks for at 80, his body is better than mine at 52. So I'm going to give him mad props for that. Now, this movie has a lot of de-aging technology in place, and I've seen a lot of people, a lot of bona fide reviewers.
Some people hated it. Yeah,
some people hated it, but a lot of the bona fide people said, "Oh, it's some of the best de-aging technology I've seen because of how they changed his voice and this, that, and the other." And I gotta say, in some spots it works, but on the whole, for me, it didn't work. The voice thing was not, because obviously our voices tend to get
your vocal cords lose
as they are worn.
elasticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I mean, there are some spots, the spots I'd actually seen on TV where they'd obviously pick those best bits, but there are other sections where it just does not work. The CGI is ropey in a lot of areas, especially on the train in that sort of like first 20-25 minutes. The story bumps along and it feels like an Indiana Jones movie. It feels like something that could have taken place 6 weeks after The Last Crusade. It really does. I mean, it feels it's got that vibe, the way the plot bounces along. And we're introduced to the bad guy and with this dial, and there's a nice cameo by the always excellent Toby Jones. But yeah, I think as Antar says, after the first 20 minutes, it starts to wobble just a little bit. What's your view on the facial technology and the de-aging? How did that stack up compared to stuff we've seen in Star Wars in particular?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as Peter Cushing, which I think is the biggest offender.
I actually think Leia was the biggest offender.
Yeah, I think Leia was. But those were both total CGI characters. That was not de-aging.
Yeah,
like when I think of de-aging,
I think of the Irishman.
Oh, I always think of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in I think it's like the third X-Men movie when they show them when they went back to find Jean Grey.
Right.
And they just look like they've been photoshopped to hell.
But that was also what, 15 years ago, that movie?
Yeah, that was a while ago. I think it's much better than that. It also helps though that Harrison Ford hasn't really aged much. Like he looks like he's grayer.
Well, he's craggy. He's craggier than he was craggy. Now he's the North Face of the Eiger. I mean, he couldn't get much craggier if he tried.
Right. It would be like if you were doing a movie about William Burroughs and you were like, okay, we have to de-age him, and it's like he looked the same his entire life. He always looked like an old man. Like
right.
Ironically, I think the best de-aging stuff I've seen recently has to be the Marvel stuff with Sam Jackson
until he Fury.
But no, actually, I think if you look at the Captain Marvel movie, even though that was only 4 years ago, I mean, they used a little bit of the technology. It wasn't super noticeable, but it was
right until he moves. When he starts walking, I thought it was. I noticed.
I totally disagree. I mean, the stuff now on Secret Invasion is perhaps not as good as behooves perhaps a TV show, but I think the stuff based on in Captain Marvel was actually really good, considering it's probably some of the best of a low bar. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the face was fine, but when he starts walking in the archives in Captain Marvel, you can tell that's not what's he supposed to be 30s, 40s at that point.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can't. I mean, you can say. I mean, you can say that with every character. I mean, they haven't figured out that yet.
Well, no.
I think the difference was in Indiana Jones.
They used the body.
It was a body double.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously it didn't have that janky, because Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel moved like a 60-something-year-old man, which he is, although he had the de-aged face.
I didn't notice that, but I will go and rewatch that. Fairfax.
When I think of de-aging technology that's more recent, I thought The Irishman did as well as I've seen. It still looks off to me, but it doesn't bother me that much. I understand it's technology, it's CGI, it's.
I've still not been able to sit through that movie, and
I mean, I've tried like 8 times to finish it. I still haven't.
I'm asleep after the first hour.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pure Mark Wahlberg and its capability to send me to sleep.
Now, Paul, how did you feel about the de-aging in this movie?
I honestly, I don't pick up on it as much as you guys do, and it didn't bother me as much. Like, I didn't really, like I said, like he doesn't look that much. Like, it doesn't look like they had to de-age him all that much. So none of that really like bothered me. And to be honest with you, like once I kind of get caught up in a movie, like I don't usually notice that kind of stuff. Like every once in a while I notice something looking a little ropey, like CGI wise. And I'm like, oh, But then, like a second later, I'm back to the story, and I don't.
Right. See,
I think the running on top
noticed
of the train was the bit that really stood out to me as ropey CGI. That running on top of the train in the beginning of the movie, it just seemed, especially as they panned out, it's like, oh, I mean, it's suffering from the same Disney issues that have plagued their last half a dozen movies. I mean, they have a problem with their VFX, their departments. They're overworked, underpaid. I'm not blaming the VFX artists. I'm blaming the Disney higher ups. This is why Victoria Alonso decided to, you know, she left, or she was fired or whatever, because she basically stood up for these guys on top of producing some other movies. But yeah, the overworked and underpaid and under-resourced VFX departments who work for Disney. This is not a criticism of you. It's a criticism of Disney not throwing more manpower on this stuff, in my opinion. So ever the socialist, I stand with the workers.
So, like, back to the context of the movie, like I notice these things. I just don't care as much.
Yeah.
I mean, like you, Paul, I'm more about the story and the writing.
Well, the analogy that I would use is there's a thing in video games where suddenly an object in the background will pop up, like a building or something will just suddenly appear. And to me, it's kind of like if you're playing a racing game and that happens, it's like, well, I wasn't looking at the buildings like in the background. I'm looking at the road, you know? So I don't care that the background's like popped in at the last minute or whatever. Like my focus is on the road, weaving in and out of traffic, you know.
Well, it's good you can have that focus, but for some of us, you know, we like to look at the bigger picture, the whole picture, if you will, and it can be disconcerting. And I think this goes back to why perhaps the last movie was kind of sucky too, because the first three movies were in a golden age where everything was practical effects, physical stunts, and models as needed. And now we are off and we're doing, you know, these VFX stuff. And if your VFX teams are overworked and underpaid and just don't have time to do it properly, it looks shoddy. And that's the problem. They have looked shoddy for a long time.
Right, but you got that back in those days too, where you'd be like, "Oh, that's obviously a matte painting. Oh, that's obviously."
And you know what? That was actually much better, in my opinion. That was much better than something that looks like a fucking PS4 game. Some characters, some stick insect from a Quantic Dreams PS4 game running across the top of a train. I would much rather have, you know, if they can't do it as a, you know, a model or a matte or a practical effect, then don't. I mean, and I know you can't do it when you've got an 80-year-old lead actor, but it just you can't. You basically look at what, and this is going to be interesting. You look at the effect shots for Dial of Destiny, and now in 5 days' time, I'm going to watch Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. And look at those effects, because Tom Cruise is still doing practical effects. He is 20 years younger. I totally understand. But I guarantee you, those special effects, those stunts and everything will have way more impact because they are not.
Well, they have the alien technology that they can use.
Yeah, but that's the power of
hang on, the lawyers are calling.
No, I mean, for me, it is a case of, if you're going to do that, you do it as a practical effect. You make sure you've got a stuntman up there who isn't, you know, Harrison Ford, and another one who isn't Toby Jones, and you film it from an angle and you make it a real practical effect. And if you want to add in some CGI rain and lightning and whatever towards the end, great. But when it's all this, you know, every single aspect of it is CGI, and the CGI is not good because it feels rushed, that's a problem, because it takes you out of it. Because again, you're watching something. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's a little bit off. What the fuck was that? And then you're back in it again. But it keeps on. You're in it and you're out. You're in it. And I think we've had this conversation so many times. I think you two in particular are way more forgiving.
Yes.
We talked about The Flash a couple of weeks ago.
It's not that I'm forgiving. I don't.
But no, but Ray, you have a different take. You know,
yes.
That's the thing. Therefore, you are way more forgiving about this stuff because you don't really care. I, however, like to really get immersed. That's why, I pick the seats that I do, and I go to the theaters that I do. I like to be immersed in the whole thing so I can suspend my disbelief, because at the end of the day, I know I'm looking at an 18-year-old archaeologist or a man, the fastest man alive, or whatever. And when I see stuff that looks like a bad video game, it just knocks me out of it. And that's just the way I am. So I'm just not I'm not disrespecting either of you.
I do not feel disrespected. I understand your
categorically you're wrong.
Different.
So there you go.
I think it has to do with our,
but just in life in general. So,
Paul, you are a wonderful man, and very virile man. And
there is one thing I want to point out though that I find kind of weird is this is not the first movie where people have criticized the CGI, and it won't be the last. What I'm always surprised by is that they don't then take the time in between the theatrical release and the digital / physical home version and put a little more time into it
to spend more money on.
Well, I mean,
it's not the Snyder cut or.
I know, but it seems like they
make it black and white and make it 6 hours long in fucking pan and scan.
Well, I don't know. I feel like if it was really terrible, they could spend a little money and go back and fix a few things, because they will go back and take out, like, if there's something really, really terrible, like they went back into the Lord of the Rings and took out the car that was in the background.
That's a little less costly.
They took the Starbucks cup out of
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean those things
that's
are,
pretty cheap.
Are different. Yeah, I think that's not as hugely resource intensive.
Oh, I know.
But when you have to redo a whole sequence, I mean, it's telling that neither The Flash or Indiana Jones broke 60 million or 70 million on their first weekend.
Well, I think both of those are very different cases.
I don't think it has anything to do with that.
I know not necessarily CGI, but I'm just saying that the standards have to be a lot higher nowadays. And I think that CGI. And again, you feel differently, but the quality of CGI is part of the overall package.
One last point about the CGI. I think it also has to do with what Paul and I have done for most of our adult lives. I mean, we've been writers for, well, Paul, like what are you, 30 years now? You've been writing professionally. Like so we focus on that aspect of a movie or anything really. There are movies or stand-up specials I'll watch just to study the writing. I'll watch it repeatedly. So,
and you're saying that I don't, even though I have basically made my entire career, whether it be in PR or as an on-air personality, writing my own stuff.
I think what we're saying
is obviously no. Because
no. I mean, I'm just saying that you can actually look at all different sides of the filmmaking process without actually, and not cut one side out. I'm not, like I said, I understand.
We're not cutting it out. We're there's one part that
I'm looking at the whole package. I have to look at the whole package as an XPR guy, but I'm very aware of the script. I'm very aware of the CGI. I mean, I've never had the benefits of working in a movie studio for a movie studio, but I've worked in games, which publisher, developer, which, to be fair, neither of you have ever done.
I have.
So, I mean,
I checked my IMDb credits. I think you'll.
Well, I mean, how many? All right, how many games have you worked on?
I've worked on 2.
Okay, you want to multiply that by about 100%, 100, and then we can talk again. I'm not trying to get into a ruck with you, but to cut me out of the not appreciating the script and the story,
I did not say you didn't appreciate it.
No, but I mean, you just said I come from a different aspect. I started off in
media. Who's written more words professionally? Like me or you? So I mean, it's not. I'm not saying your perspective is bad. I'm saying I emphasize
who's cranked up more airtime generating their own words then and writing their own stories, and who's done launched X amount of games where I've contributed perhaps to the story or I've written.
Okay, I totally think you're missing the point. No, I mean, we're not getting into a measuring stick. I'm not saying my credentials are better than yours.
My shriveled dick is bigger than yours when it comes to that, my friend.
You totally missed the point.
I'm a white Jew.
I'm over caffeinated, so I'm just fucking with you. But I just want you to know that story is vastly important to me, especially in games.
Sure.
Story,
I'm not saying, I did not say you said it's not important. I'm saying this is what we look at more than visuals.
Well, it's just you automatically cut me out of that.
No, as if that's your inference.
You said that you want. Let's
wind the tape back,
my friend. You talked about you and Paul, which
and
automatically
is that not true?
Discounts me.
No,
we
have different experiences.
When there's three people in a conversation and the three of us are talking, and so it's like me and Paul saying, well, Paul, you and I support the better soccer team. Paul doesn't actually support soccer team, but there you go. I mean, I'm cutting you out of it. I don't want you to think that I don't pay as much attention, and that may not have been your influence, but I'm just throwing it out there. I am caffeinated today, by the way. I've got a full caffeine cup of coffee, and so I may be a little bit arsey, but I just want to share that writing and story is just as important to me. I mean, that's one of the reasons that yesterday we were at Paramount, ironically, and came across a whole bunch of Writers Guild placards, and so supportive of these guys, because without these guys, we get nothing. All we get is shitty reality TV.
Sure.
And the birth of the next Donald Trump.
Look at your word choice. You said just as important, which is fine. I'm not saying that's wrong, but to me, it's writing and story is more important than visuals for me, for what I like.
For everything to work for me, it has to be the perfect balance.
I understand that. For you, I totally understand that.
Or a great meal where every course complements and works. You can't have a movie with great CGI and crappy writing. Otherwise, you're looking at Quantic Dreams. Or the Order.
No, you're looking at Avatar
66. Like, Avatar 2. 4 times I've tried to watch that sequel. 4 times I've turned off within half an hour. I just can't do it anymore. And just like you can have the greatest story being told, but if there's other stuff that just feels off, I'd much rather read the book and make it up in my own head. Because I'd rather not see shitty CGI. Well, give me the fucking script and I'll read the bastard script to myself. Okay. Or I hear Harrison Ford read the script as an audio script or something. Because again, if the visuals don't match up when I'm looking at a inherently visual medium, to me, that is phenomenally off-putting. I cannot just pay attention to one little aspect. I want to see the whole picture and immerse myself. And I've been
right.
Like that
I totally understand that. You've explained that. I get it. We have different perspectives. That's all. I mean, I don't know why you took offense to anything. I thought
because I found that when you're in a group of 3 and you check 2 people, then the third is automatically going to feel a little bit left out, my friend.
I think that's silly. There are experiences.
No, it's human nature.
There are experiences you and Paul have that I don't. Do I take offense to that? It's like, so what?
Well, look, it was just that one night, and we thought of you the entire time.
Hey, Paul's had many nights. Paul's had many nights in the 80s. You don't know what was happening then.
No, I'm just talking about me and Paul. I mean, like I said, there was one night on the press tour. It was cold, but we thought of you. We did think of you the entire time.
God, I hate it when mommy and daddy fight.
We're not
fighting. We still love you, honey. No, we're not fighting, but this is good. I mean, this is a good disagreement. I felt butthurt, and Ray was wrong.
So, Mark, I am planning to see Oppenheimer.
Yes.
There's a few movies that I definitely want to see. Oppenheimer, Barbie.
I'm with you on that, and I'm just trying to figure out the order. I think I'm going to have to watch Oppenheimer first because what I'm hearing about it is obviously it's super serious. It's an R-rated, but it's kind of horrific in a lot of ways. They show, I mean, they show the treatment of the scientists, what happened to the scientists. I know we've stepped away from Indiana Jones, and we should come back to it. But I think Oppenheimer first, and then Barbie is the palate cleanser because I'm so down to watch that movie. Shauna said she'll come watch it with me. Any movie where you run out of pink paint around the world because you're building a set in Leavesden in the UK, I'm so down with. So plus it's got Ncuti Gatwa in it, and I'm so keen to see him before he becomes Doctor Who early next year. So
he's one of the Kens also.
Yeah, well, he's one of the. That's what I'm saying. He's one of the Kens, but he's also going to become. He is the new Doctor.
Yes.
So, all right, can we let's finish off.
Yes. So question for you guys. A lot of people have been raving about Phoebe Waller-Bridge's performance, and I thought she was fine. She didn't wow me. What am I missing here?
Her performance? I don't know. I thought she was great. I think she's hilarious. You mentioned Solo before. I thought her character was the highlight of that movie.
Absolutely, and the fact that she is the brains of the Millennium Falcon, or the soul of it moving forward, is brilliant.
Yeah, I thought she was really, really fun in this, and I liked the whole idea of her like not being exactly on his side, and then she's on his side, and then she's not. But like, she's not really like a bad person. She's just sort of, she's not the bad guy.
Morals,
yeah, she was compromised, but she was not like, she wasn't like on the side of the bad guy. Like she wasn't like the German lady in
Allison Judy.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't Judy. That.
Yes, she wasn't malicious or evil.
No.
Yeah, I get it.
She was just a rebellious young woman who had gone her own way, using her obvious smarts. I thought she was great, but then again, it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge playing Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yeah. I mean, she's like Ryan Reynolds. She can do a certain type of character, and she can do it really well. If you've watched Fleabag, and this could have been a version of Fleabag, but perhaps with slightly more, with a lot more confidence, probably. But if she was also hired. She comes on board and she punches up scripts as well, which is which she did, I think, on No Time to Die. So she has writing skills. She punches things up. Obviously, she also did Killing Eve, where she was the showrunner on that. And she can do, she's really funny, and she does a lot of great writing that you can appreciate if you like writing.
And we do.
All of us. Fucking. But yeah, I think she plays a certain character really well, or a character type, and she can do variations on that theme, again, much like Ryan Reynolds, and it brings her a lot of success, as it should. Do I think that character could have been played by a couple of other actresses? Probably. I don't think she set the world on fire, but I think again, she was fine. She was part of a just fine movie. She's not going to win any awards for it. She's not going to get her own franchise.
Right. But see, there's some reviewers who were just raving about her. And so much of this movie goes back to what Marcus said in an intro. It's fine, just fine. And that's
it's like a kid. I mean, there was a kid in this again.
Right.
I mean, let's face it, the whole kid or child of or whatever thing peaked with Short Round.
Yeah,
that's it. You cannot top Short Round in the Indiana Jones movie. Last time round, we had the erstwhile son, and let's face it, he was fucking useless. And that's, again, I think because Steven Spielberg was so in love with Shia LaBeouf, who is not a very he's not a great actor as Shia LaBeouf. I don't even know if he's an actor anymore.
And he's worked on press tours. Did you see some of his interviews on that tour? It's like, this movie's not that good. Like, what are you doing, man?
Well, he doesn't seem to have a career anymore, which is good. But I think, again, the kid in this one felt pointless. There was no real connection between him and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. And then, of course, oh, look, the kid can now fly a plane through a time hole, which probably does lead us to, the most divisive aspect, I think, of this movie, where people have said, oh, it's so unrealistic because it involves time travel. The Dial of Destiny creates that leads you to a time portal, and a plane flies through, followed by a second plane piloted by a fucking kindergartner. And it goes back to ancient Greece that's been invaded by the Romans,
right?
Ancient Grecian times, and Indiana Jones gets to see this thing, and he wants to die there, but no, because he's been shot and bloody blue, and they won't let Phoebe Waller-Bridge, as his conscience, got to take him home because he can't stay there because he'll change time. And people are saying, "Oh my god, this is so unrealistic."
I did not see that at all. I mean, they're flying through their version of time holes is they make like these buttholes in the sky.
It's basically a gray bunt cake,
right?
That looks like that does look like an anus. But and people said, "Oh my god, the fact that there's time travel is just like the fridge in the last movie and the aliens." And it's like, hang on. So let's look at the first movie, the Ark of the Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
This thing that melts Nazis,
right,
or melts anybody who looks at it. Actually, it just so happened to be Nazis in this particular first movement. And then we've got the second one where we've got this thuggy
Ankara stones.
Yeah, yes, Ankara stones and Ankara stones. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And thuggies who drink the blood of Kali and zombies. Yeah, and then I can rip out the still beating heart of a man, blah blah blah. And then we have the Last Crusade, which goes back into Christianity this time, because they like to explore their religions in the Indiana Jones movies. And it's the Holy Grail. And one, not a Monty Python character in sight, which is, a real shame. It would have been great if John Cleese had actually been that last night guarding that. Just in my opinion,
with an African swallow on his shoulder.
Yeah. But I mean, it's immortality. It's drinking from the Holy Grail, and so we are basically the first three movies. Totally unrealistic, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning, all based on exploring religious myths or whatever you want to call them. And so this is why when it got to the end of Crystal Skull, I was like, oh, aliens. At first I was like, oh, aliens, ridiculous. But then I thought, hang on, nope, this is just another mythology they've tapped into.
Yeah.
So it actually does follow on what they're doing. And now the Dial of Destiny just ticks off time travel, and it's just like Sean Pegg and Nick Frost and their Cornetto trilogy, where it's like, all right, we're going to do zombies, we're going to do action movies, then we're going to do the end of the world. We're ticking the genres off that we want to do, same type of characters every time, blah blah blah, and that's it. They've done the whole thing all along this character's timeline. It's a comic book.
Like he said in the movie, I've seen a few things,
Exactly. So I didn't have a problem with that at all. I was actually fine with it.
I didn't read many. Actually, I don't think I read any reviews on the movie, so I didn't know.
It's not necessarily, again, the reviewers who when I say reviewers, I'm talking about the broadsheets or the more recognizable reviewers for The Guardian or whatever, who give it a 3 out of 5 and have said pretty much what we've all said, fine, just fine. I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about lots of other people on YouTube. It's like, oh my god, Crystal Skull last time, fucking ridiculous. Now they got time travel in a butthole, fucking ridiculous. It's like, it's all fucking ridiculous. It's an 80-year-old man who's been shot through the chest, right above the heart. He should be dead.
Yeah.
Yet he manages to get out of a plane carrying his goddaughter, and they parachute down to the ground, and not, they don't break their legs. Don't know how the hell that didn't happen. And then get on a plane piloted by a fetus and fly back to New York, where all of a sudden his wife comes back because she loves him because he's almost dead and he's been in a coma for a month or 3 days, or who knows. But at the end of the day, he's got his hat, and he puts his hat goes on and it goes down, and it's Indiana Jones got his happy ending. I mean, it's probably double happy because he's got Marion back, who's the love of his life, and he doesn't have to put up with Shia LaBeouf in his retirement. Fucking win-win.
So his son dies in the war. That's his happy ending.
I think it's a really happy ending for a lot of people, and it just goes to show. Yeah. I mean, I was actually surprised nobody cheered at the screening I was at when they said that he was, he was dead in the war. I mean, my biggest nightmare was that he does something while time traveling. When he comes back, fucking LaBeouf walks through the door.
Nah. Paul, how did you feel about the anus time travel? Did you find that? I never thought about it.
I'm like you guys. Like, that's just part of what these movies are all about. it's like somebody saying like, oh, Star Wars, like there were people fighting with swords, like that's dumb. Like, I
the
mean,
laser sword, does that make it better? I don't know.
I mean, it's what this series has always been about. It's always had that element of the supernatural and the ancient myths that may or may not be real, and it looks like they're real, and
right.
It's like somebody else pointed out, like it's like, oh, every single time they're trying to find a device that may do something weird, and hey, it turns out it actually does. Like, so I didn't have a problem with that. I had a bigger problem with like the people who were like that's dumb. They wouldn't have done that in the first 3 movies. Yeah, they would have. They did.
They did.
Exactly what they did.
They fucking did.
Yeah.
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 I mean, and look, let's face it, if Spielberg had written and directed this one, it probably would have been a lot worse.
Now, Paul, I want to get this on the record because I do think you have some interesting points, and maybe you'll change some minds. Who knows? But explain why you enjoyed the Crystal Skull more than anyone that I've met in my life.
Again, it was very much an Indiana Jones movie, and the big difference, of course, between that one and the earlier ones is the earlier ones were very based on 40s movie serials,
right?
And Crystal Skull was very much based on 50s sci-fi, which I'm a big fan of. Both the aesthetic and of many of those movies, like Forbidden Planet, The Blob, etc. And so I was just like, okay, cool. Like we're moving on to something different, but it's still the same spirit of the thing. And I always find Harrison Ford to be very entertaining. I agree with people that Shia LaBeouf is not nearly as much fun as Short Round was, or that his Sean Connery was as the sidekick in the third one and whatnot. And, but I liked it. And, anytime I get to see other people punch a Nazi in the face, you've got my interest.
But they were punching commies this time, right?
Potato.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, but the way it tapped it into, I mean, you're right. It tapped into the whole Reds under the bed scare. That was prevalent in the US in particular.
Yeah.
In that particular time. I mean, you can see that after Indy has been rescued from the fridge and taken in for decontamination, and then he gets interviewed by FBI guys who are obviously under the purview of what's his name, J. Edgar
Hoover.
Hoover. And it's like, oh, did he earn these medals? What did he do? Whose side was he on? Blah blah blah. Everybody's a red. Very similar to a lot of things that we're seeing now with this ultra, zealot aspect of of life. So I think, I think it just goes to show that, I mean, this movie, like I said, not as bad as I said, that Crystal Skull, I rewatched it, enjoyed it to a certain degree. There are some missteps. Shia LaBeouf is a misstep. I think a lot of it is absolutely right, and Paul is right on the sci-fi aspect of it. Would have liked to have seen that more. It's overlong. It's bloated. I did not need to see Shia LaBeouf with a bunch of Elvis monkeys swinging. But then immediately after the Elvis monkey swinging thing was the incredibly satisfying killer ants.
Oh yeah,
now that was so cool. And then I had no problem with the waterfall. It's like 3 times it falls or whatever it is, and then you see the 3 waterfalls, and they go over the side in this amphibious vehicle, which should have killed them all the first time. It would have capsized. They'd have been smushed. But at the end of the day, it works. And I think, again, we could have done without Shia's character when we had John Hurt and we had Karen Black. We also had the excellent Ray Winstone, who was totally...
Wait, Karen Black?
No,
Karen Allen?
Karen Allen, sorry. Karen Black's totally different. Karen Allen, my apologies. But Ray Winstone was totally underused or misused by Spielberg. I think in different hands, Crystal Skull could have been great. It needed either vintage Spielberg circa mid-80s, or another filmmaker, a decade ago, who would have dialed back the schmaltz. This the thing that elevates Crystal Skull above, Dial of Destiny for me above Crystal Skull is the lack of schmaltz. That's
fair.
That Spielberg thing that we started to see, where it's like, oh, I have to go back and re-edit E.T. to take the guns out of people's hands and put cell phones in. And even he has said that he got it wrong.
I think also with both Destiny and Crystal Skull that there was the weight of expectation going into it.
I don't think anybody had any expectation with Destiny.
I think they did. I think they did, because I think they were thinking like James Mangold, like maybe they know they made a mistake with the last one, they're going to get it right. And it's like how no matter what you think of the Phantom Menace, there was no way it was ever going to live up to the original trilogy. Like no matter what happened.
Right, but I think the situation is a bit different because I think Crystal Skull lowered the bar so much that
it did. But I'm saying that with Crystal Skull, I think a lot of I don't think any of the criticisms are necessarily wrong, but I do think that people are a little harsher on that movie because at the time, because the expectations for that movie were so high.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I also think that there were a lot of people who that movie lost them when the fridge thing happened. And once you lose people, and I'm like this too, once you lose me, forget it. Like I might as well just stop. That happened to me last night. I tried to watch that movie 65, the Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Watched the first 20 minutes and again couldn't really.
Yeah, it lost me at the beginning, and I was like, after a while, I'm like, why am I still watching this? Like
because it's on Netflix and it was.
And Adam Driver's handsome.
Adam Driver is a chiseled god of acting goodness. To quote.
Thank you, John Oliver.
John Oliver, yes, indeed. Interestingly, what I did rewatch, I think on, what was it? Thursday night was Guardians 3. Now Guardians 3 is eminently rewatchable. It's the first Marvel movie in a long time that I found so enjoyable on the second watch. I didn't drop any of the emotional punch. It was just excellent across the board. I mean, it was emotional in the same spots, and the action was great, and the performances across the road were great. And it just goes to show James Gunn is an absolute fucking genius of a filmmaker who's so underappreciated, I think, by a lot of people. And I can't wait to see what he does with Superman.
Were you guys surprised that Short Round didn't make a cameo in this movie?
No, because there was so much talk about that last year, and they all said that wasn't happening. So
it's because I think they'd already finished before Ki Hai Kwan got cool again.
Yeah.
Because he'd actually, I mean, he hadn't worked for a long time. His health insurance had lapsed. And I mean, had it been 6 months later, or 6 months earlier for him, 6 months later for the movie, I guarantee you we'd have seen him at some point. But again, I don't think we
John Rhys Davies.
Well, you gotta have your token Welshman, haven't you? I love that it's a Welshman playing an Egyptian.
Yeah.
Give him hell, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I saw his business. Fucking tiny, isn't it? So yes, look, I love John Rhys Davies. He was Gimli.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's lost some weight. I love that he was back in the middle and at the end of the movie. And that was all the cameos we needed. I mean, obviously we'd lost Denholm Elliott, we'd lost Sean Connery. There was nobody else really.
Well, they could have brought back what's her name, Winnie from Temple of Doom.
Kate Capshaw.
Oh, Kate Capshaw.
Yeah, I mean, we know where she is.
Yeah, but I don't think we needed Winnie because we had Marion.
Wait, Willie, right?
Willie,
yeah. Right, yeah. Well, no, I mean, like they could have had a scene where like like he ends up in a nightclub or like he runs past like a nightclub and it says her
and
name.
She's doing anything goes again.
Yeah, or something. You know what I mean?
Anything goes. Oh, my hip just went.
Yeah.
I don't think we needed that. I mean, Karen Allen at the end. I mean, Marion
She's
was.
I'm much glad. I'm much happier that he wound
Marion
up with Marion than
Willie.
Yeah, I mean, again, no problem with Kate Capshaw. She's a fantastic actress who's done some really good stuff, but I think she's actually probably retired from acting. I think they don't need the money. I thought, Karen Allen was great. I'm glad Indy got that ending with them. Yeah, I'm with Mark. I actually want to go back to the comment above Mark's by that I'm not even going to pronounce that again. RoboCop. Going back to practical effects, the first RoboCop. Matte drawings, practical effects, stop motion for Ed 209. I mean, I still can now. I can't get out of my head that the head, the top of Ed 209, the head is actually an upside down microphone. I mean, an old style microphone mesh thing. But I just think it all works. It all really, really works. So, you look at any of Paul Verhoeven's movies from that time, Total Recall, RoboCop, even Starship Troopers. They do a lot of things really, really right. And it's great CGI and it works. But anyway, we're not going to go down that route again.
So both of you brought up the point of James Mangold being involved in possibly increasing expectations for this movie. Were you happy with him as a writer and director for this, or did you expect more? I mean, because after he did Logan, he has carte blanche with me, even though he's done other shitty things as well.
I think that, yes, perhaps expectations were a little higher with some people. I just think Indiana Jones, after the last one, like Paul said, the fridge lost a lot of people. The Crystal Skull lost a lot of people. I wasn't seeing a huge amount of buzz for it, and I certainly wasn't. It wasn't top on my list, but it was a case of, all right, we need to go watch it. I need to say goodbye to Indiana Jones and watch, finish off the whole quadrology.
All right.
I'm saying quad is 4. Quintology.
Yes.
Why have you not corrected me? You're the smart ones.
I thought you were being like
quintologies. You thought I was discounting Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The quintology. But I just want to see it one last time and hear that John Williams score coming out of a kick-ass sound system. And actually, that's the point. I do feel that they misused the John Williams score. I never really got
fully agree.
Dun, 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 dun. I mean, there was never a gap in the action or a thing where you got that build up and it was noticeable.
Yeah.
And the hairs on the back of the net started going up and then it was blasting out. It just got kind of like
just a little hint.
Yeah. I mean, we never really got that.
Even when they do that stuff with the maps, like I thought they would use the music more for that, But
yeah.
They didn't even
it didn't seem to have. I mean, I think that's perhaps one of the things. It never had that iconic moment in this movie where you see the fedora going on and the jacket and the whip. You see him on the plane. You just, like I say, you never see it's into the action, but he's in the sports coat because he's just come from this, that, and the other, and it just doesn't feel that there is a moment where he becomes the Indiana Jones that is the action figure. That just seems to be missing. There's that. It's almost like there's a in the Superman. Sorry, no, it's not in the was it the Dark Knight books where Bane breaks Batman?
Yes.
There is a piece in the, I read the, if you read the actual book and it's called Nightfall, there is a piece in it where Bruce Wayne slips the cowl on and he feels himself becoming Batman. It's not like Tony Stark powering up stuff or, Bruce Banner getting angry or anything like that. It's just, he has this psychological shift. And there in one scene where he's about to tackle Bane, he slips it on and nothing happens because he's been so exhausted because he's been beating the shit out of everybody and there's nothing there anymore.
Right. He's saying he puts it on and he's saying one last time, but this time feels different.
Yeah, it's just nothing there for him. He's exhausted. And again, it was nothing. There wasn't that moment where we saw, the college professor or the retired college professor become the Indiana Jones. It was like Henry Jones, Dr. Henry Jones Jr., to give him his proper title. He never became. There was no scene where he became Indiana Jones. Just kind of happened, and I think that would have perhaps energized the story a little bit more, energized the audience. People would have had that moment. It's like from here on in, it's balls to the wall, and that's just it's a minor critique, just from my skewed perspective.
Question for you: in the caves, the caves of Dionysus? In the last scene, there was maybe a 10-15 second scene where they had all the bugs. Was there an extended version of that scene, or was that just thrown in? Like it seemed like there was more there. There should have been more there.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but there was also the eels.
Why did it have to be eel? They look just like snakes.
Like, yeah, I mean,
no, they don't.
we didn't really. That was again, but that was kind of screwed. I think with somewhat murky CGI. That was very dark. It was dark screen again. I guess they were just trying to put in a couple of more clapbacks or shoutbacks to the bugs from Temple of Doom and the snakes from Raiders.
Did they need Antonio Banderas in that role, or could that have just been anyone?
It was nice to see Antonio Banderas, but again, it was Antonio Banderas being Antonio Banderas as a. I mean, it's very much like Benicio del Toro appearing in Star Wars or appearing as the Collector. There are certain actors who are bigger than the character, and while they may be fine actors, they are still Benicio del Toro or
Banderas.
Banderas. I mean,
that just immediately made me think of SpongeBob.
What?
He was in the SpongeBob movie.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I actually thought of Puss in Boots. We will go to the water.
Yes.
We will dive together. I am a cat that don't like water, but I don't care.
Yeah, that was weird. It was weird too, because it didn't seem like a cameo, but at the same time, they never said he was in the movie, or if they did, I missed it.
Well, it was definitely longer than a cameo, and I think we started to see this in a couple of movies. This sort of stuff has happened, but I mean, Antonio Banderas had his moment. He's not a huge movie star anymore. Right. He had his moments, and it was very successful and was in a lot of good stuff. And then he did Ballistic X vs. Sever, and I don't think his career has ever recovered from that. Which sucks because he is he's done a lot of Spanish language stuff. He's worked with Pedro Almodovar, I think, a lot. But I think if again 30 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe we'd have got, or even 40 years ago, you'd have got Robert Shaw in as Quint. As the sea captain, because he would look exactly the same. But you could have put, there are plenty of perhaps grizzled character actors who could have, perhaps carried that off without going, oh, look, it's Antonio Banderas. Oh, isn't it nice? He's getting some work.
It's weird. That is a new trend. It's like more than a cameo, but not like a real role either. So
it's like a Rolio.
Rolo.
It's a Rolo.
Leo. I don't know. What do you call those? We should come up with a term and trademark it.
Extended cameo.
Aha. So are you done with this franchise? Did you say goodbye? Or do we have a kid, young Indiana Jones? Or
I don't think we need a young Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I think they've set it off fine. I can live without it. If you'd have asked me at the end of Last Crusade, did I want 2 more films? Absolutely, but I wanted them to follow Last Crusade, maybe at a 2 to 3 year gap, and then we could have had 5 banging Indiana Jones adventures while everybody was on top of their game, and I think that would have been absolutely fantastic. But as it is, at least he didn't limp to the finishing line with Mutt in tow. So, they righted some wrongs and gave him one last outing, and he got his happy ending at the end.
And you, Paul?
I'm glad they didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Or leave him behind in the past, which I think seemed like they were going to do for a while.
Do you think he would have immediately regretted it as the time anus closed? I mean, wait, actually.
Well, no, he's got a fucking gunshot wound. He'll be dead in 10 minutes.
Oh, he should have been dead
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think once he realized they didn't have internal plumbing or toilet paper, he would have been like, "Oh, right."
Yeah, I'm gonna die from dysentery in about 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually quite interesting. There was this book that I read. I'm sorry, this is a tangent. I read this book about it's a short story actually about time travel and how a guy goes back in time from modern day to the era that we're talking about. He steps outside the time machine, takes a deep breath, and collapses stone dead because he's not used to the level of oxygen in the atmosphere because there's no pollutants. And I did think that when I watched that movie, I'm like, they're totally fine, they're breathing fine, but there's none of the pollutants that our bodies are used to. I mean, there were so many diseases that would have killed them inside a week. Because let's face it, I mean, Greek food is fantastic, but Greek food back then there was no refrigerators,
right?
Lead lined or not. So it's like, how you liking those goat kebabs?
Yeah. I also thought they were gonna make what's his name, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
I thought like they were working towards him being Archimedes, which I'm like,
oh really? Wow.
Yeah, because he had the watch,
right?
And I was like, wait a minute, are they saying that he went back in time and was Archimedes and knew? I was like, really? Wow. Okay. But then they didn't. So
yeah. How did you? I thought he had the best performance for me.
Archimedes? Yeah, he was really good.
Mads Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen is great. I mean, look, he was great as Le Chiffre. He was great as Hannibal Lecter. I mean, getting the follow on from Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. What's his name? Mr. Cox from Succession.
Brian Cox.
Yeah. Who was obviously the first Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter.
Yeah.
I thought he took it in a different direction and it worked really, really well. He was excellent as Le Chiffre, like I said, in Casino Royale. Actually, I watched a movie where he was a retiring hitman. I can't remember what it was called a little while ago. And it was such a great film. He was just, and so much so I think there is a sequel coming. Because he's retiring, and the people who have hired him his entire life now want his money, because when you retire, you get this payout, and they didn't want to pay him. So yeah, it was that was actually a fun little movie, and I think he's great. I think the trick they missed. Archimedes turns up. Harrison Ford has this conversation back and forth in ancient Greek. And then I want Archimedes. So Harrison Ford says, "Oh, you brought us back to defeat the Germans, to defeat the Nazis." It would have been great to see Archimedes go, "Eureka!" Polar. That's it. Yes, Polar is the movie.
Oh yeah. That's based on a comic book.
Yeah, it's actually really great. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed it. But I can't remember film titles because I can't remember shit because I'm old.
I have not heard of that, but I definitely want to check that out.
It's fun. It's silly. Go in with suspension of disbelief. And,
well, he's I'll watch him in most anything. I just think he's super talented. So
Doctor Strange.
Yes, Doctor Strange. Who am I to judge? I love that. What did he say? He's like, "What's your name again?" It's Strange. Perhaps, but who am I to judge? The delivery of such a stupid line.
Yeah,
he just kills it.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it.
I have a question for you guys.
Shoot.
Why do you think since we're all gamers, why do you think there's never been a truly great Indiana Jones video game, with the possible exception of the Temple of Doom arcade game?
Arcade game's really good. I was just going to say.
And at the same time, you have these video games that were clearly influenced by Indiana Jones, i.e. Tomb Raider and Uncharted, and yet none of their movies have been any good. Discuss.
Okay. Well, who's had the license? I mean, was LucasArts for a long time?
But it was LucasArts because they didn't they? They did an Indiana Jones game.
They did a couple of them.
Wasn't it? Wasn't one like a point and click or something?
They did I think a point and click adventure. They did a side-scrolling arcade game, and then they did one that was like a Tomb Raider-ish kind of game.
But it was bad.
And I think there was an Indiana Jones mobile game that was basically a runner game.
Oh.
And I think that came out in time for Crystal Skull or whatever. Like
that
200 years
would
ago.
stand to reason, yeah.
But you are ignoring the Indiana Jones Lego game.
I didn't play that one.
With good reason. I mean, let's face it, by then the Lego games had jumped the shark. I mean, you lost me after fucking Lord of the Rings, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, obviously the rights are now with Disney, but Disney don't really have they have a games division, but it's not Disney's division. LucasArts is obviously a thing of the past.
Right.
If I was somebody at Disney, I would be paying Harrison Ford a shit ton of money to come in and read the fucking dictionary and record a whole bunch of phrases.
Making, like, a new game. There is a new game in the works.
Do you know who's developing or
publishing? Oh, it's Bethesda.
Yeah, it's the guys
Bethesda have a new game. That's right. Yeah. I keep on forgetting this because it's the most un-Bethesda news that you could ever imagine after that game that came out at the beginning of the year, Hi-Fi Rush, which was the most un-Bethesda game that Bethesda could release. And now we're looking at a fucking Indiana Jones game sometime next year.
Yeah, it's being made by the Wolfenstein guys, Machine Games.
Which could be really, really cool given how great the first two Wolfenstein games were.
Yeah.
You know, you got the whip mechanics in there. I mean, look, if you're playing Indiana Jones, it's gonna be interesting. I think if you're doing an Indiana Jones game, I don't want to play as Indiana Jones. I really don't. I mean, that's why the best Star Wars game. No, bear with me. The best Star Wars games for me is when I'm not playing Luke Skywalker or Han Solo or whatever. The best Star Wars games for me are, you know, Jedi Knight and Dark Forces and
KOTOR.
You know, KOTOR, or even the last two where I didn't like the first one, but I really loved the voice acting and I loved the characters and I loved the writing, bizarrely enough. I'm just not sure that. I mean, again, you're messing with something that is so ingrained into perhaps for us, our core consciousness. Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones, just like Han Solo is, you know, or Deckard. These are all these characters that Harrison Ford embodied and owned for us. Maybe it works for a younger generation who really don't give a shit. They saw him die in the Force Awakens, and they probably didn't even watch this fucking movie. But it would, I don't know. It's something that I mean, obviously the fact that you brought it up and I remembered again because I keep on forgetting that Bethesda are doing it. How do you handle it? Is there a voiceover? Is there going to be conversations?
Is it like now?
So do you have Harrison Ford involved? Do you record him and de-age his voice? Because without Harrison Ford playing, and you're playing as Indiana Jones, I don't know. I mean, again, the old man in me who, grew up watching Indiana Jones and had the whole, pretended to put on a fedora and a whip and play in the backyard or whatever it was when I was 11 years of age, would have killed for that. But it just, it's that voice, it's the mannerisms. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, perhaps they need to go the route they've gone with James Earl Jones and license his voice and get him to record a bunch of stuff so that we, basically we could have Darth Vader in everything moving forward. And I'm not saying that we have Darth Vader bubble bath or whatever like that, talking bubble bath or Darth Vader talking sex toys. But I think if there's Indiana Jones content, if you don't have Harrison Ford, it's the danger is that it becomes the Avengers game, because there are generations of people now who've grown up with Tony Stark as Iron Man and Chris Hemsworth as Thor and Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, and you either get a sound alike or the original or no voice whatsoever.
All right, but in that case, and this was Square's stance on it, is that they didn't license the movie, the MCU versions. They had
but unfortunately for Marvel, the MCU is the be all and end all. As much as we love the comic books and we've read the comic books and we have row upon row of comic books.
No, I understand that's the mainstream audience,
but they are that is the gaming audience now. That is the gaming audience. They associate Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr.
Right, but Robert, I don't think a game company is paying Robert Downey
No,
Jr.
but that's why you go with a sound alike.
I think they did.
They didn't go with a sound alike. They went with a all-star cast of voiceover actors from the game space, and none of them sounded like their characters.
Right. I think when they did the initial, when Sega did the original bunch of games, I think they got the real people. Like, I think Robert Downey Jr. is in the original Iron Man game.
Quite possibly. Nobody played. I didn't play it. Nobody played them. There's the Sega games you're talking about. I'm actually going back to the Avengers, and that was the biggest.
No, I know that. I know. And I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy had the same issue where people were even more so because the characterizations of those characters was very different.
Those were And again,
Guardians is a better game than Avengers.
Sure.
I will add that. But again,
that game
it just seems like Tomb Raiders reskinned to Guardians of the Galaxy because of that god awful engine they keep on using.
Yeah, but if Guardians of the Galaxy had featured the characterizations and the actors from the movie, that game would have sold like gangbusters, like way more than it did. Yeah. And a lot of people would have liked it a lot more.
Because you know, that just taps into your, you know, it's you're aspirational, you want to be blah blah blah. It's like, okay, this works. So
but let's remember, Harrison Ford is still alive. If he wants to do that Indiana Jones game, he can do it, and he may. They may give him buckets of money, and he'll go, okay.
Well, if Microsoft want to be smart about it, because you know it's a fucking Xbox and PC exclusive, Microsoft need to open up the bank the checkbook and say, all right, Harrison Ford, please let's record a whole bunch of stuff, and not only that, let's record the sequel and the third one as well. So this is the map that we've got. This is how the story is going to work. So you're going to be Indiana Jones in video game form. I mean, another example is Deadpool, the Deadpool game by Activision. Actually, a fun, if buggy, flawed game, but it came. I played it after Ryan Reynolds had taken on the role. Not the same. Again, no offense to the voice actors involved, but without that, without that thing, you want to play as Ryan Reynolds. You want to play as Harrison Ford. That's my point.
Now, let's get out of here on this question for you guys. Harrison Ford said that he wants the Indiana Jones character to die with him. I don't think that's up to him, of course. He doesn't own the rights to the character. Would it be disrespectful, say, 10, 15 years from now, if they did Indiana Jones with a new actor or, and give it the reboot treatment? How would you feel about that?
I will probably not be alive to see it, so I don't give a fuck. I'm with him though. Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford is Han Solo, despite, like I said, Alden Emmerich's best efforts. I mean, you've got to feel sorry for that actor. But I think we've had 5 Indiana Jones movies, and hopefully we'll get a good another good Indiana Jones video game. And there's been books, there's been comic books, but I think it's time to let it go. I think obviously in 30 years' time, should this planet still be around, and that's a big fucking if. If Disney will regurgitate it, they will do it, and it will be a CGI AI powered Harrison Ford delivering these lines until they get sued into infinity by his estate. But I just think Indiana's done. If we're gonna have, for me, games are the way that we can keep this character alive and tell the stories from the gaps in between the movies. Definitely the gap between 3 and 4. There's a whole swath of stuff that could be told. That's the era you need to keep Indiana Jones in. Keep him in the 40s. Keep him in World War II. Okay. That's where he's best. Don't bring him into the 50s. Don't bring him into the 60s. And obviously, in a video game, they're not going to put 90-year-old Indiana Jones in the 70s because that would just be fucking crazy. Yes. Put him back into World War II and tell us the stories that weren't told in between all the movies. And you could actually be really super cool about it. You could have the first movie sitting between Raiders and Temple of Doom. Second game. second game between Temple of Doom and Last Crusade, and third game in any trilogy, even if it's 10 years from now.
Paul, before we get to
after the Last Crusade, I think that would be great. Use them in conjunction, use them to supplement, use them to enhance. Do not go, oh, we're gonna, there's a new time travel element now. Indiana Jones actually fell into a wormhole in 1946 and is now in a world where the Nazis won everything, and it's 1999, and the millennium will see the Y2K bug, which is actually a Nazi plot. No thanks.
Paul, before we get to your answer, just want to touch on something Mark says. He says it will be rebooted 100%. Hollywood is creatively bankrupt. I 100% agree with you. Like, whether we want it or not, I think there will be some executive in the future that will just make it happen.
It's the executives who are morally, on the whole, were morally bankrupt. The creative types. Unfortunately, you need executives to perhaps keep some people in line, or otherwise, we get Thor, Love and Thunder,
yes,
which we don't need, or we get anything Zack Snyder does. But there is a perfect balance where you get people working together to create an excellent creative vision, keeps people happy, but also brings in a profit. So, but yeah, I just think use the games to finish them off. They make more money than the movies anyway.
Paul, your thoughts on future?
I agree that they will actually reboot this series at some point. I could almost kind of see them doing more of a pre-Raiders thing, like a young, like a Solo. I think it will be a very long time before that happens, especially since Solo didn't do well. Like, if Solo had done super well, that would have been a game changer for this stuff. And I agree with Marcus. Like, yeah, if you want to keep the legacy going, there's lots of ways you can do it. Novels, comic books, But what I would like to see more would be sort of a non-reboot. Like, create a new character, but have it be in the mold of these stories. Have it be, especially the original ones, have it be like an adventure series with a bit of a supernatural thing. And
with Short Round, with Ki Hai Kwan.
That's an idea.
I was thinking of I thought you were going to be like
the Short Round Adventures on Disney Plus. What's he been up to?
Yeah. I thought you were going to call for like Mississippi Max or something like that.
Well, I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call him that, but like, but like, that's what I'm sort of saying is like, Indiana Jones. Don't forget, like, when Raiders started, we hadn't seen anything like that ever, and it was a completely new and different character. And I think that like that's what I would prefer them to do, is to come up with a new character.
Fair enough.
I mean, there has been all this talk about Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character taking over. I would watch her open a supermarket, but like, I don't know that like I want to see that.
And I don't think she wants to be that kind of actress. She's got so many things going on as a creative anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she had fun, and she, like I said, she worked fine off Harrison Ford. I don't know if she could carry that sort of franchise.
Well, she
by herself, not because she's a woman, just because of the way she is as an actor.
As a creative, I don't think that's what she wants to do.
She's doing something with Tomb Raider.
I did not.
She's right. I don't know if it's a movie or a TV show, but she's writing a Tomb Raider.
It's an Amazon TV show.
Is that what it is? Okay.
I think it might be Amazon, but that would make a lot of sense, because again, she has a voice and she knows how to basically punch up the female characters in particular. She does make them a lot better, and that's why she's been brought into a lot of things. So it would make sense that she can bring that sensibility. But again, you wouldn't see her as Lara Croft. But again, I think the problem with Lara Croft is Lara Croft is obviously been tricky. I had no problem with the Tomb Raider movie that was basically a remake of the Tomb Raider reboot video game. And I had no problem with Angelina Jolie as Tomb Raider in that first movie. I thought it was fine, just fine. But when you're talking of somebody, you were talking like Indiana Jones, which is obviously a much more seminal generational character. I think somebody asked the question in the comments: Would I do I wish that I would die before they make the next one? And I said, look, I'd be happy to be gone. I don't need to see another Indiana Jones film. Play a game with Harrison Ford's voice in it. That would actually be really quite cool. I don't need to see that, and I'm good.
And with that, let's put a bow on this episode of the BeeRPad. Guys, thank you so much for watching live.
Well, we need to give it.
Thank you for watching the replay.
Score.
How many
score
whips?
10. Whips out of 10.
No halves.
No halves. You can't have half a whip, or it's just a whip.
It's just a whip. Like, ooh. I'm gonna go 6 whips out of 10.
I'm gonna 6 whip it too.
I'm gonna go 7.5. Oh, can't go. Okay. So then in that case, 8. They gotta go 8 whips. Then I'll be nice.
That's fine. Just
8 whips. Wow.
8 whips to the butt cheeks.
Yeah. Woo!
We're not talking about your Fridays, Paul.
No. Exactly. So, yes. So, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about next time? I know I am going to see the 61-year-old Tom Cruise.
I am not.
Show me up as a 51-year-old.
I am not.
52-year-old. I'm going to go see Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning because I think that franchise has gotten better over the first one I really liked. Second, the third were a little bit iffy, but fourth one it hit its stride. I am looking forward to this being the first half of his bye-bye. I think it's going to do gangbusters. I think it's going to make more money than Fast X.
It will. As much as Top Gun? What do you think?
I don't know as much as Top Gun. I mean, again, Top Gun was the movie that dragged us all back to the cinemas, but it's also a movie I haven't rewatched. Maverick. I haven't rewatched Maverick at all. So, yeah, I'm watching that on Thursday. So the next time we air, which we are moving, are we not, from a Sunday to a Monday evening Pacific Standard Time TBD. And that's basically because, Sundays are days off for a lot of people. And, it is the summertime. And sometimes we need to be off doing fun things. Not that this isn't fun. So, yes, we will be Monday, either 7 or 8 PST, which obviously might be too late for East Coast and for indeed some of our European chums, but you will be able to watch
on the replay.
And on the replay.
Definitely subscribe to our socials, like, follow, share. Go to Paul's site, paulsemel.com.
Enjoy.
Share.
Share and enjoy.
Follow us all across all the socials, as well as the BeeRPad, obviously. RPad TV, Paul Semel, and Annoyed Gamer. Let us know your thoughts. Did we get it right on Indiana Jones? Did we ramble too much because we went off on a couple of different tangents?
On at least 8.
Did you like me and Ray?
We're not fighting.
We weren't fighting, but it was fun. We were having a disagreement, which is good because otherwise it gets too boring.
I agree.
What do you want us to talk about? I mean, we're into a season where it's traditionally the movies, but none of the big movies have actually turned out to be that big. Into the Across the Spider-Verse is the only exception to that rule. But then we have Mission Impossible, and we have Barbie, and we have Oppenheimer. We have Blue Beetle at the end of the summer. And then
I'll watch.
I mean, is it going to be crushed by the fallout of the Flash being a huge bomb?
Honestly, I think there are some people that won't watch it because he's Mexican, or he's supposed to be playing a Mexican kid. So
I'll watch it. I really, I mean, if people won't watch it because he's Mexican, shouldn't have watched Black Panther then because Chadwick, Black Panther's black. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think I will turn out opening weekend for Blue Beetle, just like I turned out opening weekend for Black Panther, because I want to be entertained. And if the movie looks good and James Gunn likes it, then I'm actually kind of cool.
But he liked the Flash.
So Mo says, wow. I mean, it's true. Sadly, there will be some.
I mean, Well, kids... fuck them. It's their loss if they can't turn out to Blue Beetle, which could be a really cool film, and miss out because they have a problem with any movie because of a female lead, a Latino lead, Asian lead, black lead. I mean, trans lead. Fuck them. Let them go back to burning books.
They've become. That's the thing. They've become irrelevant.
Marrying their sisters. Huh?
I mean, they've become irrelevant in this sphere because every time they complain about something, they think they're going to get people to not go see it, and people go anyway. I can't think of any movie or TV show that didn't do well because of the racist backlash.
That is true.
Even the Ghostbusters movie, which they claim is a victory, wasn't really a victory for them because people that wanted to like that movie and were open to the idea of that movie being good saw it and we're like, oh, it wasn't very good.
Exactly. Right. I mean, the problems with that movie were nothing to do with the lead cast. The cast it was excellent in that movie and would have been great in a Ghostbusters that wasn't necessarily a reboot or a reimagining of the story. I mean, had it been a continuation, it would have worked probably a lot better. But I think a lot of people felt it's like, oh, women are not going to have that. When you have some of the funniest women on the planet, and I'm looking in particular at Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones, who are just absolutely amazing. No disrespect to the other two, but I think they can be very hit or miss. But I mean, like I said, she can be hit or miss. She's better in an ensemble. But yeah, I think if that Ghostbusters had perhaps been a continuation in that universe continuation set, well after the events of Ghostbusters 2, that could have actually been really, really cool. And I think that's why Afterlife did so well in that it acknowledged the source material more than a bunch of cameos and a bust.
Here's the thing: Afterlife didn't actually at the box office do that much better than the Lady Ghostbusters movie.
It did well enough to greenlight a sequel right off the bat, and I think it's.
But that's mostly because its budget was much smaller.
But also, wasn't the release time like just coming out of the pandemic when it was in theater?
No, Afterlife came out before the pandemic, didn't it? Oh no, it didn't. It came out. You're right. When did somebody Google it? I'm not going to type it. I can't be bothered. But yeah, you may be right, Raymond. But yeah, I mean, Afterlife. For me, Afterlife worked because it was a continuation of that universe. If the Ghostbusters, who you're going to call or answer the call, whatever it was called. What's another word's called?
It was November 2021.
That's right. It got delayed from 2020 because of the pandemic. But yeah, it worked. But I could have really have seen had they tweaked that bit, that movie to really, really well. Because there was a lot going for it. But I think it just tried to be too clever by half.
Mo's going to watch Blue Beetle to see Susan Sarandon's boobs. I know you are. I always thought I knew you were a boob lady.
Susan Sarandon is just fantastic. I love that she's all of a sudden popping up in more stuff again because she went through a phase of doing some straight-to-video disasters. But yeah, Susan Sarandon. I mean, Thelma and Louise, Witches of Eastwick, White Palace. I mean, oh god, those movies are amazing.
And I'm a big fan of her daughter as well. Saved is one of my favorite movies. I thought her daughter did really well in that. Highly recommended.
So, well, I'm going to watch Dead Reckoning next week. So,
are you
watching Dead Reckoning?
No.
Okay, so we need to find a topic for next week. Otherwise, it's just going to be me talking about Dead Reckoning. So you two need to come up with something else that you're going to do. Is there a game?
I'll come on and talk about Vanessa Kirby and Haley Atwell and
we ranked Paul's top 10 women.
Why do you have to be
like those
creepy?
Lady. And the
dude, you don't have to be creepy about it. Those days,
Guardians of the Galaxy lady too.
You don't need to be that creepy guy, for God's sake. We don't need to rank. You know what? Rank Tom Cruise movies. Let's rank Tom
talk
Cruise
about
movies.
How cool they are.
We'll give it some thought. There are things we want to talk about. We've been saying
maybe,
we want to do something
we
about
can,
80s movies.
Maybe we'll touch a little bit on Secret Invasion.
Thing.
We can do a Star Trek thing. I mean, we can actually do a State of the Union on that with regards to. I haven't started watching Strange New World series 2 yet, so I wanted to build up a bunch of episodes before I just plowed through them. So as long as we don't do spoilers on that, I mean, I'm happy to talk about Discovery. The final season starts later this year. Picard has just finished, and season 3 was really good in my opinion because it was the next gen finale that we never got, and I think we all wanted. We could talk about the state of the movies, and we could talk about the games.
We also have non-media stuff, like we want to have a chat with our old friend John Kiefer, other people we know from the video game business, and really just catch up and make you guys watch it. And ask them interesting questions and get their thoughts on how the business has evolved. So,
well, next week there will definitely be Dead Reckoning. A week on Monday, a week tomorrow, at either 7 or 8 Pacific Standard Time, PM, not AM. Not getting out of bed that early. So that's where we're going to be from now on. And if you have any suggestions for us to talk about things that we should
take requests.
Yeah, we should talk about. I mean, has anybody else played Dave the Diver yet? Are there any other games that people are playing that's with the exception of Zelda? This is a Zelda-free zone.
Should we rank our favorite summer ice cream flavors? Because it's freaking hot.
Oh yes. I mean, shall we talk about the state of the climate and how we're all going to be dead in a day after this planet cracks open like a fucking piñata because we are all killing each other?
I just had butterscotch pudding ice cream.
Ooh, that sounds pretty interesting.
It was very, very good, and it was on sale at Whole Foods.
I need to get into Final Fantasy 16. I don't think Marcus will play. I'm guessing
not a cat in hell's chance. But
it's I'm
going to play it.
It's very.
Well, there you go. There you go. Look at that. I can talk Dead Reckoning, and you two can talk about Final Fantasy 16 because don't bother trying to get me to play it because I've got no intention of playing it. I'm not spending the money on it. Maybe we can talk about our most anticipated games of the fall season that are coming up, and then obviously Ray and I will be talking in about 6 weeks as we come to the end of the transfer window to see how our respective teams are going to.
I need to set up our draft. I totally forgot.
Yes, we've got a fantasy football league draft.
Yeah.
There's some stuff coming up, and we will talk about Blue Beetle. We'll talk about Oppenheimer. We'll talk about Barbie.
Past lives. I'm going to talk about that next week. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, that's fine. There you go. This is good. Everybody bring a topic next week. I'm going to talk about Dead Reckoning.
It's show and tell time at the BeeRPad.
I do not want Paul showing me his thuggy, okay?
Paul, let's see your Sankara stones.
I don't have any. I do have a Lego Indiana Jones, but he's tied up at the moment.
Whoa.
Again, who's tied him up?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll go get it.
Indiana Jones and the sex dungeon of the
He's actually going to show us how he ties up Indiana Jones. Are we going to get banned from YouTube for this, Paul?
No. Okay. So many years ago,
it's not Indiana Jones.
No. My friend Scott gave me a Lara Croft, and it's on a rope, and so I put Indiana Jones on it.
Okay, thank God it's not like tied to his dick or something.
Lego figurines do not have penises.
We have denoted this as not for kids. Yeah. Okay.
Hey everybody, we had fun on the Death Star.
Oh no!
All right,
and that's all I have to say about that.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. Okay, we're going for real this time. Paul.
Yes, sir.
You guys have to say goodbye. Paul, you're our guest. You say goodbye, Paul, first.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Marcus, say farewell, sir.
Farewell, sir.
And I will say goodbye because I control the outro and I will not cut Marcus off this time. So thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time.